Well, once again, what a joy it is to be with you all this morning, beginning this new season of life and ministry at this cathedral, in this community, a place that has had a place in my heart since I studied my junior year of college at the University of Bordeaux, and lived with a family, actually, who had an apartment right on the Rue Saint-Honoré, not too far away, that way, sorry, and just gave me the keys and said, go up to Paris anytime you want to go up to Paris. So I was here regularly, way back when. That was just about, 4 or 5 years ago that I was in college. Very short time. But my wife, Eli, and it is Eli, not Ellie, less common name for female, but not the only one. We've met several. There's my wife. There she is. Hi, Eli. We've been married 26 years and really, in a matter of weeks, this has become home for us. It really has. So I just want to tell you a little about me. I grew up in the Episcopal Church in Colorado. I don't care for the term cradle Episcopalian. It's not a right or wrong, but for me, it always implied that I was only here because I didn't know better, right? Because I just was born into it, and that's what we've always done, so that's what I did, and that's not why I'm an Episcopalian. I'm here because this is where God called me. In fact, in 5th grade, if you can believe it, I had some sort of experience of the presence of God, and God telling me, I want you, James, to be a priest. You can imagine how that stuck with a 14, 15, 16-year-old adolescent, but that sense of call never went away, even through those crazy teenage years, all the way through my childhood, and teenage years, and college years in church. There was this journey of growth, of discovering more and more the magnitude, the unfathomable greatness of God's unconditional love. And that's never stopped for me. I thought when I was younger there might be a time when I would figure that out and grasp it. It never happens, does it? There's always something more to learn, to discover, to experience about that love of God in our life and the implications for that on our life. So that was always there. There was always, as I like to say, there was always someone around in church who saw more in me than I saw in myself, who saw that presence of God within me when I couldn't even recognize it, and drew it out. What a gift that is to have. There were, to be sure, also moments where there were folks who decided that an 11 or 12-year-old or 13-year-old or 14-year-old boy who was a very typical adolescent boy, obnoxious, know-it-all, rowdy, disruptive, sometimes mean, all those things that teenage boys can be, didn't belong. There was often someone around who would make sure that I knew you might be welcome at some point when you behave correctly. You might be welcome at some point when you know better. You might be welcome at some point when you dress properly. You might be welcome at some point when fill in the blank. So that was around too. That was always part of that experience, somewhere around. Both of those, for me, have always been part of life in the church. And it's not always been clear to me where that welcoming presence of God fit in those. There were times when I mistakenly believed that God would love me when fill in the blank, right? There were times when I mistakenly believed that I would be a part of the community when fill in the blank. I got something figured out, I did a little better, whatever it was. But here's the thing, we're talking a lot today about being welcome, and I will tell you, Eli and I have felt so genuinely, deeply welcomed here in this cathedral family. And it's an incredible gift. It's so amazing to travel across the world to this place and feel at home that quickly. But that is the nature of the welcome of God for each of us, isn't it? That's what it's actually like. With God, in the Christian community, when we're at our best, there's no blank to fill in with that welcome, is there? None. Zero. The words for Christians, you are welcome, full stop, carry a huge amount of weight. They are the starting point in any relationship because they're the starting point in our relationship with Jesus. Jesus welcomes you and me, full stop. No conditions, no waiting until. There's pure welcome, right? We get a disturbing and radical example of that in today's gospel, don't we? I kind of love this gospel reading, but it also bothers me a little bit because Jesus is kind of in the wrong here, and this Canaanite woman sets him straight. How cool is this, right? So they're going along, Jesus and his disciples, and I will tell you, even then, there were conversations about what that blank is that gets filled in about who's welcome. You're welcome if you're part of the tribe of Israel. You're welcome if you live in the right parts of the city or country. You're welcome if you're male and part of the group. You're welcome if all of these blanks. And let me tell you, this Canaanite woman not once fit whatever filled in that blank in her life, ever, in that kingdom of Israel. She was a Canaanite. She was a woman. She didn't qualify in any way. So here she is, but she knows, somehow she knows that she's welcome by God. And so she knows that Jesus has something to give. And so she asks, Jesus, Son of David, help me. My daughter is tormented by a demon. And there's this whole terrible conversation. And while the words might be a little different, let's be honest, we've had these conversations when someone's wanted help or welcome or something. Well, you know, they don't speak the right language, they're not dressed correctly, they smell a little funny, they're a little rude, they're whatever they are. I'm not going to deal with it. We do that. And so there's this whole conversation there that's had. I've only come to the lost sheep of Israel. I have to say, I hope Jesus is saying this sarcastically. I hope he's saying it to provoke a response in his disciples to get them to figure out that he's not just there for the lost sheep of Israel, that Jesus' welcome is for every single person. But if you read the story just that's there, he's just wrong. I don't know which it is. But he says to her, it's not right to give the children's food to the dogs. Again, I hope he's being sarcastic and ironic, because it's terrible. But listen to her, because she's amazing. Even the dogs get the crumbs. My daughter needs healing. And Jesus turns and says, wow, your faith is incredible. Maybe I've learned something. Your daughter's well. In this moment, in other words, the question of what it means to be welcomed by Jesus, to be welcomed in the kingdom of God, changes radically, doesn't it? There's no longer any sense of membership, right? You're not a member of anything to be welcomed by Jesus. Not a member of the house of Israel, not a member of the cathedral, not a member of anything else. In this moment, we come to see, as we read this story, that the welcome of Jesus, the welcome in the kingdom of God, is unconditional, and it is available to everyone, every single person. Whether we feel like we deserve it, whether we fully understand it or not, whether other people tell us we're not welcome or not, even when the new dean might get it wrong, and I will, none of that will change the fact that you and I, every one of us, right where we are today, you and I are fully welcome in the loving community of Jesus Christ.